A man is in serious condition in hospital after an accident on Marine Drive and Boundary Road this afternoon. The man was pinned inside of a car that was stuck under the front half of a 10-ton truck. He was trapped for nearly 2 hours before rescue crews could cut off the roof of the car and pull him out. Officers say the truck had gone through a red light, tried to turn but missed, and then headed straight into oncoming traffic. Investigators say that it's too early to tell if faulty brakes were a factor.
They pulled me out and took me to the hospital. They found I had contusions to the left side of my brain, I believe. And I had broken up several ribs and they punctured my lung, and I had collapsed lung, and my hand compounded.
Hit an 18-wheeler from behind, and so needless to say, my station wagon was totaled. I was at the flat of the station wagon, and no seat belts of other luggage, so I kind of flew to the back of the front seat. So that's how I sustained my broken neck. I had a C2-3 fractures, and plus a brain injury. So I was in a coma for 16 days. I was in a neck brace. I was inpatient 8 months, outpatient
crashed into a lamp standard. Have no memory whatsoever of what happened, and there were 2 witnesses, but nobody actually saw the accident occur.
The Aerosmith program was developed about 37 years ago based on the principles of neuroplasticity and the understanding that we can actually change cognitive function. Originally, it was developed for individuals struggling with specific learning difficulties, but over the years we've had people walk through the door that have had traumatic brain injury. And what we found, because it's the brain and the brain is capable of change, that this work has application for people suffering from traumatic brain injury.
I'm involved with the traumatic brain injury research, the TBI research, with my colleague Mark Watson, with the Watson Center for Brain Health. And our focus is to work with the University of British Columbia, their brain research team, to explore how cognitive intervention could improve the lives of those dealing with TBI.
I got involved with the Aerosmith program about a year ago. They came to me because they had started to look at the results of the Aerosmith in children with learning disabilities, and they were interested now in expanding this to looking at people who had a traumatic brain injury. So they asked me to design a study, which I did, to look at how the brain changes, both in terms of the structure of the brain and the function of the brain, and importantly, how these changes in the brain correspond with changes in behavior.
I am involved in participant recruitment and in coordinating the various aspects of the research project and getting all the imaging done for all the participants, as well as doing preliminary data analysis. What we're finding so far is that the individuals that are participating in the study are enjoying the program and that they are noticing differences in their day-to-day life.
My first involvement has just been in designing who will come in, how they'll be evaluated when they come in. And then after that, it leaves me. So the intervention then goes off to the Aerosmith folks, and they do what they do best. And then intermittently, they come into my lab, and they're evaluated by my assistants for their cognitive function, their emotional health. And then in the end, we'll put all the data together and hopefully come up with something that'll be of interest to everybody, which I think definitely there will be something.
The doctor said after 2 years I wouldn't get any better. That would be my peak. I wouldn't get any better. Memory issues were going to be lifelong, and I'd have to learn compensatory strategies.
I had definitely poor concentration, poor short-term memory, poor in difficult planning, organizing, things like that. My balance was off. Coordination was off. I developed a lazy eye. I was very childlike, and my memory was going, and it was like my memory was kept disappearing every 5 minutes. It kept getting wiped out, erased. They didn't think I could, live independently, so they would look into group homes and such for me to after my discharge. And then they were thinking that I couldn't go back to school, that I wouldn't be able to work in any kind of capacity that was not of a menial nature. And so that was very devastating because my background is social work and I knew what group homes were like. So I wanted to do more in my life.
The neuropsychological team came in to do an assessment and they asked me some questions. And they said, Melanie, what color is the sky? And as if I was Jimi Hendrix, I said, pink or purple? Of course, it's natural, right? I'm fairly high functioning most of the time if I've had good sleep, but focus, endurance, like sustainability when it comes to, say, working or completing tasks, that's something that's definitely challenging. I really have to be careful with my, my strength and energy and how I utilize that.
The main issues I have, one is socially, in social interaction, being able to process conversation, what other people are saying, and being able to process and follow what people are saying and come up with, my part of the conversation. So being able to process what they're saying and then process what I want to say and say it.
When you're at Eden Aerosmith School, there's the kids are there and they're looking to grow potential in weak brain areas. So whether they've been held back for whatever reason, they have the hope that they can build brain areas up to capacity to be able to get back into normal everyday school. With the traumatic brain injury group, and I didn't really have much of a background getting into this, there's been brain areas that have been damaged and things have been taken away from people. And what you're kind of trying to do is build neurological connections with within the brain in the areas that have been damaged. And we will use our Aerosmith testing to be able to kind of decipher where we should be focusing our attention in within the classes, within executive functioning.
At the beginning of the study, before the participants started the program, we had them do an EEG, and then we're looking at the connections in the different brain regions. And then after 3 months of the program, we did another EEG, and we're looking to see how those different areas and the connections are different from the resulting of the program. And then we're going to do another one at 6 months and then another one at 9 months. And we're going to see how the program is, if it is, influencing how the post-injured brain is connecting and working.
Myelin, which is what makes white matter white, it accelerates the speed of nerve signals around the brain by about a factor 100, plays an extremely important role in brain function. Myelin contains water as well, and the magnetic resonance signal from water and myelin can be separated from the magnetic signal from water in other cells.
My main role here is to look at all the scans and try and compare them between the control subjects and the TBI subjects and get an idea of how the myelin water maps look, and then get an idea between different regions and more the technical research analysis. When we're born, there's very little myelin, and as we learn and grow and develop, we gain all this myelin. And you will see that as people age, they will get more myelin as they learn more and do more tasks. So it's essential for us to pretty much do everyday tasks.
It's what's called a multidisciplinary approach. You have neurologists, psychiatrists, basic researchers who are geneticists, physiologists, and to really understand the brain, which is the most complex organ and actually structure that we know of. It takes lots of different approaches, lots of different types of scientists and physicians to come up with understanding how the brain works and how to treat damage.
During the past 6 months, I've really noticed that my thinking is a lot more clearer. I mean, it's been 30 years since my brain injury, and ever since my brain injury, my thinking was kind of like cloudy and slow. But 6 months after doing this program at UBC, I'm finding my thinking is a lot more clearer and a lot more faster.
One of the important factors here is that we're looking at outcomes or change at several different levels. Okay, so this isn't a study that's just, for example, looking at the cognitive changes and nothing else. You know, in conjunction with that, we have these promising new imaging kinds of techniques that are also being conducted before and after participation in the program. And so what that allows us to do is to look at, you know, the brain level and the behavioral level and see if there's any correspondence between the two.
Now, at this point, I'm starting to think there is some improvement socially in these social difficulties I was having.
It is still early. We are trying to change the brain, which, although it is neuroplastic, it does take time to form those new neural pathways. So the benefits that we are seeing are good, but it's still early. And I think by furthering the research and having new participants come and doing more imaging, I think it can greatly improve the amount of knowledge that we have.
For me to be participating in this program is like, it's better than winning the lottery for me.
It's not a drug, it's just cognitive training with Aerosmith. And if we do see a difference, it'll be spectacular.
One thing recently I've noticed is in writing. So I've definitely noticed more clarity, any ability to get what is in my head onto paper, basically.
This research could be replicated and used throughout the world and could have a really big impact for anyone post-injury, whether a traumatic brain injury or a mild concussion, whether pediatrics or adult or elderly. The impacts of this research could be potentially huge.
Having participated in the program for approximately 6 months, I have definitely noticed some huge changes with regards to multitasking is something that came back, but my ability to get from A to Z, and what I mean by that is not forgetting important details along the way. I'm more likely now to remember important details such as medication, a book or an appointment. I still use reminders, but I'm much more, most of the time with higher functioning, I'm much more on my A game.
You know, we're learning so much more now about the brain and how it functions, but understanding how we can harness that, how we can harness the changes in the brain to actually help people who have had a traumatic brain injury. This kind of work is really going to be so novel and groundbreaking that anyone who wants to donate to this kind of research will be involved in very innovative, cutting-edge work.
It's 2% of the population that lives in like permanent disability, and yet, as compared to other illnesses, it gets a fragment of that amount of research money.
I think there's a real need here, and I believe the Aerosmith program is a good model for cognitive intervention, probably the best out there, and could have the best impact for those suffering from TBI. So if you have financial means, or you know someone with financial means, please contact us and consider us.
Really encourage people to contribute, because we're going to change the face of how we approach people with traumatic brain injury.
Individuals shouldn't have to fund themselves to rehabilitate, just to improve people's lives and their functionability, and you know.
Yeah, the improvements that I've seen within myself and other participants has been quite dramatic, yeah, quite significant.
The more we can know as a population and as a society about the way the brain functions and about the way we can help people who have had injuries to the brain, the better.
I think research monies is so important, because right now there's not enough money for research. There's not enough rehab for people with brain injuries, and if there are rehab opportunities, they either don't qualify or they don't have the monies to pay for it. And a lot of people with brain injuries are on income assistance.
Please, whoever you're out there, please donate money to this research project, because there's I had no idea there were so many brain injury people out there, and it's really, really helping not just us, but everyone in the rehab world have a better recovery, because this research is going to be applied to all the rehab out there, right? So we're going to have a much better recovery, and it's all up to you guys.